understand how BL writers, BL adaptations still glorify the trope of.
I just found this very interesting post on Reddit, and it comes right after I made the video that is stitched, and I found it very interesting. I wanted to share it, and you can have your own opinion after I read it to you. So the title of the video is BL and the problematic discourse surrounding it. Hey everyone, I want to give my homosexual 2 cents on the discourse around BL fiction being problematic or certain stories being problematic. I use a lot to read, and I've noticed a lot of things that seem to be troubling young readers in the comments. I'm a gay man in my late 30s, so I was around when male BL and yaoi were not as widely consumed. Consumption and creation have increased so much over the last few years that I figured I would share some thoughts about all the issues surrounding it. What is transgressive fiction? Transgressive fiction is storytelling that pushes past social or moral boundaries to explore taboo subjects like non-con, dubcon, incest, violence, etc. It is not just part of BL, it's been part of storytelling since the beginning of time. Ancient text, myths, legends, literature, bodies, rippers, erotica, etc. across all cultures and sexual orientations. Why do people consume or create transgressive fiction? The short answer is catharsis. Trauma survivors processing experiences in a controlled space, those curious about taboo desires they would never act on, people drawn to the psychology of power and danger, and anyone wanting to push against restrictive social norms. It creates a private arena where confronting the forbidden is safe, contained, and entirely under the reader's control. The correct mindset to approach fiction. You must view characters as narrative tools, not living people, and the content as symbolic or exploratory, not instructional. You're allowed to separate your values in real life from the freedom fiction allows, and recognize that discomfort doesn't make the work or its audience immoral. The claim that bad things should only happen if they serve the plot. Fictional cruelty doesn't need justification. It can serve the plot, but it doesn't have to. A story's reality is separate from the reader's, and its suffering is imagined, not a reflection of the author's morality. Insisting violence must serve the plot forces realism into fantasy, which only makes it hard for people to understand the difference between fiction and reality. Wholesome, idealistic Disney-like stories where partners approach conflict with healthy communication every single time are not a reflection of realistic relationships. Green flag MLs are not a reflection of real men. Trust me, I would know. A contemporary story that has no fantasy, no supernatural or dystopian elements, follows the clear boundaries of the real world, is still not and never will be an accurate reflection of reality. Fiction can reflect reality, but it's never required to. We use storytelling, the most grotesque or the most wholesome, to feel a wide range of very complex emotions. Those emotions depend entirely on the reader and differs from person to person, even if they're reading the same work. In transgressive fiction, the draw is mood. The draw is mood, tension, and catharsis, not moral resolution. Bad characters don't need redemption, and meaningless suffering isn't unethical because it's imagined. The experience belongs to the reader, not the character. Going on normalization adventure. Normalization equals the process by which an idea becomes accepted as ordinary through sustained mechanisms that reinforce and maintain that acceptance. To begin to normalize a fiction depiction, it needs a process or a road. Number 1, fictional depiction exists. Number 2, depiction leads to a shift in audience attitudes. And number 3, shifted audience attitudes create change in real-world behavior. At this point, the depiction has created a road or a process to the normalization. It's not normalized yet. At this stage, it will be considered endorsement. It has influenced some audiences, but it hasn't been accepted as ordinary. To move from endorsement to normalization, the depiction has to actually travel the road. For that, it needs a car. That car is made up of mechanism, repeated exposure, positive framing, social reward, integration into daily life, and constitutional tolerance. Those mechanisms have to work together over time to drive the depiction all the way down from the road to normalization. They need to be Gandalf, otherwise Bilbo ain't going on an adventure. He's just going to tell everyone about how amazing it would be if he could, which is endorsement. And honestly, that's giving BL authors a lot of credit, as if Gandalf would take just anyone on an adventure. Putting it differently, we know that corruption and bribery are common in real life, and they are depicted in fiction, sometimes even glamorized. Yet in societies where law, media, and public opinion condemn it, it's not accepted. Fiction echoes reality, but hasn't overturned the stigma because the real world reinforcement isn't there. If it was, I would be too busy doing fun things like embezzling, Abusive lovers and the romance tag. This is romanticizing abuse. Yes, it is, and that is the whole point. Dark romance often uses what I call idealized abuse, a fantasy version of devotion expressed through abusive behavior. In real life, there is no such thing as idealized abuse. It is all abuse. In fantasy, the abuser is made up of several impossible oxymorons: obsessive but loyal, dangerous yet protective towards the love interest, controlling yet unwavering in attention. It turns something destructive into a symbol of devotion. It is wish fulfillment wrapped in the aesthetics of power and harm. The appeal is in the extreme contrast within the archetype of a lover, something you can only experience through fiction. The creator's job is to be transparent with warnings, ratings, and age-appropriate platforms. After that, it's on the audience to choose what they engage with and separate depiction from endorsement. There is weak empirical evidence suggesting fiction alone causes real-world change. It can reinforce behaviors or ideas that already exist in the audience, but it will rarely create entirely new beliefs or actions without real-world reinforcement. Banning it only drives it underground and shuts down discussion. The real safeguard is media literacy, teaching people to put fiction in context, talking openly about abusive behavior and mental health, and confront emotions without shame. you must understand that taking away safe outlets of expression will inevitably increase the amount of culture or the amount of people seeking unsafe outlets. Cultural influence in transgressive fiction. In cultures where women or sexual receivers, bottoms, takers, submissives, are shamed for wanting sex, non-con in fiction can give readers a way to explore desire without guilt. Because the character isn't choosing, the reader can engage with the fantasy without it reflecting on them. It's less about the character's experience and more about creating distance from cultural shame so the reader can imagine freely. Internalized shame from religion or conservative environments can really, excuse my language, fuck you up. It will make you feel shame for your own body and your own sexuality. Is there something wrong with me if I like dark themes? We are a deeply curious species as humans, and from the moment we began telling stories, we've been clever enough to find ways to explore intense emotions without subjecting ourselves to real harm. It's pretty neat when you think about it. Kinks, including power-based ones, are extremely common. It's really important that you believe me. Otherwise, you might end up going to a BDSM club on your 23rd birthday and running into your aunt who finds it hilarious, and really, you're just mortified and trying to find the exit, praying you don't see your uncle in a collar somewhere. Anyway, engaging with them in consensual, self-aware ways is healthy. Repressing them because of purity is usually the residue of religious and misogynistic control over sexuality and our own agency. If you have trauma, even from sexual abuse, interest in dark themes does not make you complicit in your own harm. While not everyone experiences it this way, for some, revisiting dynamics in fiction or fantasy can create a sense of agency in a context where they decide the terms. Enjoying dark themes doesn't require conscious explanation, nor does it imply you want them in reality. Please give yourself credit as a human being. You are far more complex than that. Your attraction to these narratives reflects ways human desire, imagination, and narrative intersect. BL and heteronormativity, straight coding gay men. I distinctly remember when the queer community was fighting for same-sex marriage to be legalized in the US, there were people, both queer and straight, who accused gay men and lesbian women of fighting for heteronormativity, shaming them for wanting something that was deemed only for straight people. And that is exactly what I think of when I read straight coded. A lot of the times, this is usually in relation to the lack of verse dynamics in BL or the common attribution of dom equals mask equals top and sub equals femme equals bottom. As a gay man, I can understand why this is seen as problematic to a degree. But if you are a competent person reading things appropriate to your age, then you will already know that fiction isn't a blueprint for life or people, right? Now, I'll tell you, while most gay men are versed over their lifetime, I can guarantee there's always a preference for one or the other, and it is more common than you think it is for gay men to only stick to one. If you are a muscled hunk who only tops, you'll be sought out like a prize at every pride and every gay bar. Feminine men are the least sought out in the gay community. Mask for mask is an actual thing. Gay men wanting masculine partners only. So when feminine men are portrayed in BL and books, it was a bit of a godsend for many gays in the West. Power dynamics aren't allowed, Power dynamics aren't owned by straight people. Dominance, submission, masculinity, femininity, and fixed sexual roles exist in every orientation. Plenty of gay men are strict tops or bottoms. Plenty also do consider themselves to be submissive bottoms and dominant tops. I mean, you can pretty much confirm this on any gay NSFW subreddit. In any case, shaming those dynamics because they resemble heterosexual patterns is wrong. Many narratives, not just BL, use clear roles and heightened contrast because they work for the genre's tension and fantasy, not because it's copying straight couples. Queerness is defined by its own realities, not by how far it strays from heterosexual norms. The issue of realism. Have you ever heard there's no lube? Why is his forged like a weapon? How are their bottoms self-lubricating? Well, these are all very good questions. If I didn't know you, we're talking about a story. It's just like how straight romance isn't realistic. Straight couples still need to talk about sex, prepare for anal, wear condoms, take birth control. Nothing in romance is realistic. Personally, I don't want to read about safe sex in a story about a mafia boss and his twink. It's not the time, nor is it the universe. I would lose my mind if I had to suffer through the unfun parts of sex in fiction too. And maybe I would like to imagine for a moment what it would be like to self-lubricate as a gay man. Well, a gay man can dream. Are you saying I have to be okay with dark fiction, unhealthy dynamics, or unrealistic sex, even if they make me uncomfortable or disrupt my reading experience? Not at all. That is valid. All creators of fiction should be responsible and add trigger warnings and cautionary disclaimers for sensitive work. You don't need to consume anything. You don't need to consume things if you don't like them, but you also should not vilify content you don't understand or make harmful assumptions about its audience. Throwing around words like crap, I lost where I'm at. Throwing around words like fetishization and endorsement of rape, or for example, is really harmful. Sorry, I need to repeat that. Throwing around words like fetishization and endorsement of rape, for example, is really harmful. It implies that enjoying queer male intimacy as a woman is inherently predatory, which erases the difference between consuming fiction and dehumanizing real people. And I found this particular point very interesting because it's not something that I've thought of before, even in my previous video. So I would like to make a star on that, and I will read it again. Throwing around words like fetishization and endorsement of rape, for example, is really harmful. It implies that enjoying queer male intimacy as a woman is inherently predatory, which erases the difference between consuming fiction and dehumanizing real people. It also assumes gay men don't have kinks, that we need people to sanitize fiction for us, that we cannot have the same range of fiction as straight people do. It's infantilizing. That is the main purpose of this post, to open the doors of discussion and learn about things we may not understand the purpose of. You don't need to indulge in it, but you do need to acknowledge its right to exist. Is it strange game? Is this strange gay man telling us we can't have variety? No, variety is a good thing. You can have and express your desire for diverse fiction, but we need to stop using representation as a guise for just wanting variety. Because what inevitably happens is that homosexuality starts being defined by what heterosexuality isn't. It's basically like when feminine gay men in stories are complained about because they're just like women. We want real men. Fuck him. So feminine men don't exist. Does femininity belong to women exclusively? You can have preferences, but you can voice them without shunning a certain representation of gay men. You can voice them to be more true to your enjoyment preferences. It is not a crime and you don't need moral high ground to hide behind. Why women enjoy male-male dynamics? Well, I'm sure there's no one answer, but I do have a pretty strong suspicion that it has to do with the pressure of the female gender being removed. You get to experience emotion or find comfort in something without thinking about what it means to be a woman. And that is okay. Totally and completely okay. Not a crime. Am I objectifying or fetishizing gay men? Objectifying equals viewing a person as an object, reducing someone to a set of traits, stereotypes, ignoring their humanity and individuality. Are you doing that to gay men in real life? Do you, for example, treat them differently based on whether you think they're a top or a bottom? If the answer is no, then you're fine. If the answer is yes, are you sure you're not a gay man? LOL, joking. But actually, gay men are very guilty of doing that to each other, and that's wrong too. Being attracted to people is not wrong. Hot people are hot. Characters intentionally designed to be hot are going to be hot. Now, finding something hot does not mean you have a fetish. A fetish takes more dedication, but even a fetish is not a crime. You can have a food fetish and spend your nights looking at pages and pages of feet. You can make a Pinterest board of feet drawings. You cannot go up to your coworker and demand they show you their feet to add to your little Pinterest board. You cannot go to a foot doctor and leer at the patients in the waiting room. Do you catch my drift? If you're not hurting anyone or projecting your fantasies on real living, breathing gay men, then you are free to carry on as you are. The comparison people make about it being like men who watch lesbian porn doesn't hold up either. Watching lesbian porn as a man is not wrong. It is only wrong when they are objectifying queer women in real life and or watching content that is exploitative or posted without the knowledge and consent of the performers. This is because porn includes real people. The persecution of gay men and the anti-LGBTQ+ rhetoric is a direct result of patriarchal societies, religion, and capitalism, not because of kinky stories. Is it wrong for women to create BL? Short answer is no. Women do not need the consensus and approval of gay men to create fiction. That will be a little weird and those poor women will be waiting an eternity. Second, the gay community owes a lot of women for normalizing gay fiction. Yes, I know it's a mixed bag and some fiction is pure erotica with a flimsy plot, or some is just downright badly written. It doesn't matter though, because our choices for a while were either a tragic love story where one dies because someone homophobic kills them, an AIDS story, or a reality TV show which gay men dressing other people up. In any case, BL is no different from any other imagined narrative. Shakespeare wrote kings and servants. Toni Morrison wrote men. Countless war stories came from authors who never saw combat. Here, the difference lies only in being caught in debates over gender, sexuality, and authenticity, making it a target for disputes about who may tell which stories. And why haven't we been able to do that? Because any fixed rule would erase large parts of literature and can't be applied consistently without contradicting artistic freedom and history. And before you say these are just stories about women lasting over gay men, creative freedom applies to all genres, regardless of their perceived value. Limiting it anywhere sets precedent for limiting it everywhere. That is how censorship begins, and it spreads until entire ways of thinking are erased. Preserving the freedom to create. Social media's respectability politics runs everything through harm reduction. It feeds on guilt, polarization, and control. Fiction doesn't fit that filter, which is why artistic merit is protected under free speech laws, with narrow limits on obscenity and depiction of minors. If we could only write our own lives, creativity would collapse. Creativity would collapse into censorship and entitlement. You don't want to live in a place like that. You're right to consume fiction and enjoy it. It doesn't matter what discourse you read or what anyone says. It is well within your rights as a human being to enjoy, create, and consume fiction that gives you reprieve from the hardships of life. And if that comfort for you is giggling and kicking your feet under the covers at 2 a.m. over two men going at it, then so be it. It is probably the greatest part of existence, and who am I or anyone else to deny you the right? Okay, that's where it ends off. You can have your own opinion, you can share it. I would love to hear your own opinions about this post. And yeah, I guess that's all I have to say about this for now.